Anyways, should we get into the second?
I mean, we
part
have
of
to at some point, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna hit most of it. There's so much.
You do your thing, and
good
I'm gonna
stuff.
make my interjections. Like
You should. Yeah, this one. Sometimes you get to me on them because I lose my train of thought. This time, very welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So this is where
assume the position.
Yeah, this is where you interject the first like two words in. So Truman Show is a movie about this guy named Truman, who has only ever been in a show. Roll credits.
Yeah, we don't know that yet.
No, we don't. So Truman starts his day, as he does every day.
It definitely seems hyper stylized to be like, oh, what's that other movie?
Yeah.
Pleasantonville or whatever.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? What's it called?
I don't know, but I know what you're talking about.
It's just supposed to be some perfect
You put in the
picture.
comments, you full-time MFers. You know what we're going on
Learn
about.
us a few things about movies.
Yeah. Learn it us about it.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about, where it's like everything's perfect
Just right off the bat,
like
you get that
kind of
vibe.
off-putting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nice
but not
pull.
Truman.
Like,
Truman actually feels very sincere.
Yeah, like nice pull. He's way too
Like
nice.
nice
and it
pull,
makes you feel
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yes, that is yes. But everything around him is like too perfect. He's got a very fun catchphrase. Is good morning, and if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And it's like very, and they do it later on. It's very marketable.
Yeah.
They make merchandise on it.
Yeah, I thought that. To be honest with you, I thought that was going to be your opener.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to the thing.
Your
cold opener.
If I was a little more clever today, probably. But instead, we got this show has a true man in it.
Yeah.
I was going for a Jarvis pun.
Drop the ball.
Sorry. So we start out his day, and we get to follow him on like a very average, normal day. He works at I'm forgetting where he works at.
He sells insurance,
and he's very good at it.
Yeah, he's an insurance.
Obviously, he's very good at it. And so we go through a whole normal day. Everything's totally fine. And then the sky is falling.
Well, the first thing we see is we get introduced to his phobia. Because he's about to take the ferry. He's about to take the ferry.
She's got a phobia of open water.
And
we learn later for good reason.
Yeah, and coincidentally, he thought he was going to miss a ferry. But he didn't.
But he didn't.
Even though he was late, it just so happened to stay there for him.
Yep. Somehow.
Yep.
Some way.
Not weird at all.
Not weird at all. Am I right that the light falling is like the first thing to happen, really?
Is it?
Pretty sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it's like he's everybody knows him.
Yeah.
It's very uncanny. We also learn no, we don't learn that it's a show until after the light falls. So light falls.
Yeah.
And Truman's like, "Oh, that's weird. That's like a stage light." And then they like rush him off really quick, and then make a news broadcast later about how, it's like plane parts fell off and fell to the ground earlier that day, and everything's totally fine. Nothing's weird at all. And Truman goes, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Then goes on with his life. And man, I pulled it up and I started reading part of the summary.
The ferry, and then we get introduced to his fear of. Flashback.
Yeah.
As to why he's afraid of water.
Not yet. I don't think we get a little bit of the like TV show stuff now, where we like talk to the director and we get the background where he's like, "Yeah, the Truman Show was made by me. We got a baby that had no parents and put him in this studio soundstage that we made, and his life has been broadcasted ever since. And everything that happens in his life has been carefully conducted, and the director is a crazy madman who likes to play God." Very literally. And that is a theme of this movie that is very open. One of the cool things, I'm starting it now. One of the cool things that I love about movies is a lot of really good movies have like vague themes and I think that they're very good. But I've been finding out more and more that the best movies are. This is the theme. This is the theme of the movie. Yep. This is what this character represents.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what this is. Is that the director Christoph is playing God. That's the whole point. And and the whole movie, spoilers, we're gonna get to it, is Truman fighting against God, fighting against what is planned to be his life, so that he can take control of his own life.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful. Anyways,
I mean, we see a lot of weird stuff in between. There's like
small things,
product placement.
Yeah.
The first one, hey honey, I got you this multi-knife. It cuts slices and juliennes or whatever. And
he's like, "What are you okay?" But then he starts noticing weird things happening, and he starts to get this suspicion that something's going on.
I think,
and it doesn't really grow into anything meaningful for a while. And then we do get the flashback at some point of why he's scared of open water. Yeah. And it's because when he was a kid, he really, really had the desire to explore and travel the world. And so they did a whole plot arc where his dad took him sailing, and then his dad was thrown overboard on the ship and died.
Yeah, he's like, it's time to turn in. And he's like, no, Daddy, let's go a little further. And he was like, no, son. And he was like, please, Dad. And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he died.
Yeah, and so Truman is terrified of open water now.
Because he basically killed his dad.
And they live on an island, so he has no way to get out.
Yeah.
And that's how they solved that problem from early on.
Yeah.
And then we get introduced to another flashback.
Well, I was going to say, it was early on that he was reminiscing in his...
Yeah,
in the basement or whatever. Looking at
so Truman is married, but Truman has a long lost love, who I don't remember what her actor name was, but I know that her real name is Sylvia.
Yeah, her actor name was Lauren.
Her actor name was Lauren, and they met. So
it was I think it was just maybe a game day thing, and they were all getting ready.
And she was just an extra.
His best friend was playing the horn right in his face.
And they were trying to do the childhood or the high school sweethearts thing with his wife.
I wanted to say this, because when I watched that scene, it was very I lost my train of thought, but there was something weird about that. I mean, there's something weird about the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we as the viewer, he's going through his trunk and he's looking at, he basically has this, does it reveal her face that he's piecing it together?
Yeah, he has, he has a little secret stash of special things, and anytime that they get a magazine, he looks at the faces in the magazine to match up what he remembers her face looking like to create a collage.
Here's the thought that I had though, because it looked like
psychopathic, but
yeah, it looked like it was a dream sequence, or obviously oh, he's reminiscing. Yeah. But it looked like they were playing back.
No, they were. They were playing it back.
So they knew that he was thinking about that moment, and they replayed it. I thought that was
no, they did that. That was intentional.
Yeah. So I was like, that's crazy that he starts to go and look through his trunk, and then they automatically know, oh, he's thinking about this girl that we're trying to make him forget about.
Yeah, so they play it back because the people at home know what happened, because it was probably one of the biggest moments of the show at that point.
Yeah, and they're really... But the funny thing is we're seeing his perspective, but how do they know? They're playing it close-ups of her face. You know what I mean? When she was supposed to be the one that was like, hey man, get out of here, get away. When he got distracted by his wife, because like you said, they were trying to create a romantic, oh, she tripped and fell and he caught her, and she was like, oh, trying to flirt. And he looked back at Lauren, quote unquote, and she wasn't there because they were really trying to.
Yeah.
She was not.
Yeah. And then they saw each other again later, right? Because there's a point. There's a point at which like he asked her out on a date.
Yeah. Well, it was I think it cuts to, his best friend and his future wife. I forget her name, but in the library he's like, "Hey, I got to study," and
Meryl.
Huh?
Name's Meryl.
Oh yeah, Meryl. And so they're like, "All right, loser, you study here." And then he sees the bracelet, and he looks around the other side of the desk, and it's Lauren. And he was trying to flirt with her, and she's like, "We can't. Like, I'm not allowed to."
And so he asked her out on a date, and she was like, "No, I can't." And she wrote down on a piece of paper, "Now."
Yeah.
And then they run off together to the beach.
Very, very romantic.
Yeah.
Like.
So they run off together on the beach. And then
she helps them because she knows where the cameras are.
Yeah,
so
they like hide, and they eventually find them out on the beach.
Yeah, and there was some. I mean, right off the bat, we know that there's weird stuff happening, and that it's not right.
Right.
But then this was the first like, okay, this is actually crazy because they go to the beach, they have their first kiss, and then some random guy shows up that she doesn't know. She's like, I don't know that man.
Yeah,
it's
like this is.
I like how you tell it.
So, Lauren, I'm your dad. I got to pick you up. She's like, I've never seen this man. Don't believe him. This is all like.
It's all for you.
It's all for you. Yeah. And so, Truman sits there. Is like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, that's when he gets rained on.
Yeah. Yeah. It like immediately starts raining. He never sees Sylvia ever again.
Him.
Oh, and that's where she says, "My name's not actually Lauren. It's Sylvia."
Yeah.
Everyone here is here for you. It's all like not real. And so that's the first time that Truman actually had like a crisis, I guess is the best way to put it.
That was the first time that he wanted something for himself and was trying to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the director, of course, playing God, was like, "No, you're going to do what I want you to do because this is the life that we've set up for you."
Meryl.
So you get Meryl because Meryl's already been paid for
she has a
30-year contract.
Yeah.
So we get all that backstory, and then some other weird thing happens. He doesn't see his dad yet. Does he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, because that is what sets it all off.
He's going to work the next day, and then he's walking into work,
and he sees a homeless man.
Yeah,
and he goes to help the homeless man, or bumps into him or something.
Well, they walk past each other, and then he goes, "Wait a minute!" And of course, he's trying to get back in the show, so he kind of looks back at him, opening. Yeah, and then Truman looks back at him. He's like, "Hey, Dad!" And then
and then everybody swarms and like pulls him away, and Truman's like, "Okay, something's up." And so Truman gets the bright idea that he's going through a crisis, like an actual mental crisis, and so his plan is to quit his job, go to Fiji, and figure it out from there.
And Fiji was big because Sylvia said, or her fake dad said, we're
moving to Fiji. Yeah, that's right.
That's where
that's an important thing.
Obsession.
Yeah,
comes from.
And so he quits his job and then goes home to Meryl and goes, "Hey,
let's try.
I quit my job.
Yeah,
we're moving to Fiji." And she's like, "You don't even know where Fiji is." And so he takes that as like okay.
He did know where it was because he did that whole thing with the golf ball.
Yeah,
and his buddy.
Yeah,
which proved that he knew where it was.
Mm-hmm. It did prove it. And so he goes the next day to go get plane tickets to Fiji. They're sold out for at least 3 months.
No, that's
it goes through him trying to get out somehow.
Doesn't he have his break before that? Like, because a lot more weird stuff happens. Like, he tries to go on an elevator. He sees the set. His wife is doing product placements, and he's like, "Who are you talking to?" Right? And then like she's like, "Oh yeah, I got to go to work because of the elevator thing. And remember I told you about it?" And then he tries to see her at work, and that's when he sees the the set, and then he kind of has a little psychological break, and he's chasing his wife, and she gets scared, right? And then he goes.
That's so. So what this is saying is that after she says he doesn't even know where Fiji is, Truman goes to the beach and then has a memory about the fishing trip that they took together, and this is where we get his dad died in the ocean.
Yeah.
And then he pops out of the memory, and it's raining just on Truman. And this is where Truman has the oh, it's raining. And then he walks out of it, and he's like, it's just raining on me.
Yeah.
And as soon as he realizes it's raining on him, it just starts a torrential downpour, and then he goes home.
Yeah.
Again, all of this, I think another thing that we can say about this movie is that you can move a lot of parts of this movie around and you get the same movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool thing. It's like no matter where you place the beats of the story, it all comes together.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. So he goes back home and tells Meryl again about the plans to go to Fiji. And she tries to be like, no, it's okay. Like, we have so much, like, we have to pay for the house and take care of everything. And if you want an adventure so bad, why don't we have a baby? That'd be a good adventure. Oh, okay. Yeah, we skipped around a little bit because this is, then he wakes up the next morning, he realizes it's his dad.
And it still works.
And it still works.
Point proven.
And then later that day, Truman talks to his mom on the phone, and she refuses to believe any of the, he saw his dad out in public.
Yeah, this is like huge gaslighting. I see him in other people's faces too, once a day.
Okay. And then all of that stuff happens with Sylvia. So the Fiji thing happens beforehand.
Okay.
And then he does more stuff with the magazine.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next day he's driving to work, and as he's driving to work, he's listening to the radio station, and it gets some interference into the walkie-talkies telling where his location was.
Yeah.
And then he looks and sees that people are watching him, and he gets very paranoid. And so he decides to walk to work instead. So he parks and ducks into a building and makes his way toward a random elevator. The door opens, and which is surprising to see, and it's not empty, but an entrance to what seems to be a studio filled with people wearing headphones, eating sandwiches, like a
craft table,
like a backstage area.
Yeah.
And then security immediately pushes him out of the building, and so he goes to
they're doing construction,
the place where his friend works, and tries to convince him that something's off and that they need to get out of there.
Oh yeah, one of the funniest lines that I just thought of is because he's a vending machine filler guy.
Yeah,
and that's his best friend's job.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him talking to Truman about saying, "Man, you've got a great life. You've got a desk job."
Yeah.
He was like, "Dude, you're living the dream." It's just like, okay, come on. That should have been the biggest
sure
red
thing,
flag.
brother. Sure thing. Yeah, right. Everything costs 17 cents. Yeah. He's living the dream.
It was, but the thing that made it most believable is him talking about how they still had so much debt and they didn't have enough money to travel. I was like, hey, that's realistic. That's my life.
Yeah, okay, so then he returns home, and the gaslighting continues.
Yeah.
Because they all know that Truman's trying to... almost.
Okay.
This when he gets home, it's his wife and his mom going through, family photos and things, and there's a TV program that's playing an old movie called Show Me the Way to Go Home to try to, gaslight him into not wanting to leave.
I just remember it being profound when Meryl was just like, "Oh, look, our wedding day, the happiest day of our lives," and he was like,
and he looks at the picture, and she's crossing her fingers as they're getting married.
Oh yeah.
And then so Truman goes to the travel agency to go book a flight to Fiji, but then there's no flights available
for a month.
And then he tries to take a bus to Chicago, but the bus breaks down before he can leave. And then when Meryl comes home from work, she sees Truman sitting in the driveway. This is where I think the freak out happens.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Truman, why aren't you coming inside?" And he goes, get in the car real quick. Let me show you something.
Mm.
He said, notice how all of the cars only move when I'm driving. Notice how things only happen when I'm around them.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, that's ridiculous. That's obviously ridiculous. And he said, okay, well, why don't we get out of here? And he just starts driving straight out of town, and then suddenly traffic from nowhere just appears.
Yeah.
And so he backs up into reverse. And then suddenly they're driving down another empty road. Traffic immediately appears.
Yeah.
He finds a roundabout and starts going around the roundabout as many times as he can. And then he stops and goes down one road that's completely empty. Boom, traffic immediately again. And then he books it down the road to where the bridge, like to cross out of town, goes. And as soon as they get to the bridge, he freezes and can't do it because he'd be traveling over open water.
Yeah.
And so he goes home instead, which is a very, like, for us watching, a very sad moment to be like, damn, he almost had it too.
So close.
He almost had it.
Freedom was within his grasp.
Yes, I can move my watch.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't exactly go home yet. Instead, he closes his eyes, slams his foot on the gas, and forces Meryl to drive. And as soon as they get past the bridge, they pass a sign that says "Warning of Forest Fires," and then flames just shoot across the road. And Truman just keeps driving, and then they finally have to stop by a power plant that had a meltdown. So men in hazmat suits were like blocking everything. But then one of them accidentally calls Truman by name, even though they have obviously never met before, and that throws him off again. So he gets out of the car and tries to make a break for it, and then they chase after him and capture him and return him back home. So that's the breakdown that you were talking about, right?
No, I was talking about the other one. I was thinking about the other one later.
The one before, like, the ending?
I guess so.
Yeah, okay.
Where Meryl quits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. This is like the next thing that happens. Is that they go home, and she's like, well, wasn't that just a crazy day? And he goes, and then she, like, picks up, and she does the little promotion again, and he goes, who are you talking to?
Yeah. She does the paid promotion.
Yeah, and then Meryl starts freaking out because Truman's getting a little manic.
He's getting a little aggressive.
And then, and he's just trying to, like, convince her that things are going wrong.
Yeah, he's trying to make sense of it all. And
then she takes the peeler that she was just promoting and, like, points it towards him and tells him to stay away. But then instead he grabs it from her and puts her in a chokehold, and she calls out for someone to stop him, which is brilliant for the situation, terrifying otherwise. Yeah. And then Truman releases her and, like, asks her what's going on.
Because it's obvious that she's not talking to him.
Yeah, and then his best friend shows up at the door with a case of beer, trying to play it off as casually hanging out.
Which is his signature move.
Yeah, and then she runs into his arms crying that it's not professional.
Yeah, this is unprofessional.
So Marlon takes Truman out to the edge of the road sharing some beers and tries to tell Truman that if everyone was on it, that'd be like a crazy massive scheme or conspiracy, and Marlon would have to be in on it too. Yeah, and wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah, and that's a terrible feeling. I think I want to talk about that for a minute, because I think we've all had friendships and lost friendships for various reasons, and that's one that hits deep because there are very few things that hurt like friend hurt, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like losing a friend or finding out that a friend was fake to you or lying to you. And I think this was that moment, because at this point Truman has too much evidence that things are weird. Like it's not something you can deny anymore.
Yeah, it's not like little one-off things that he could be faking in his own head.
Yeah,
like there are actual things that are happening
that he could
now.
just logic away or come up with excuses to make it make sense. It's not making sense because it doesn't, because there's something really off. And I think with that whole day, that day in particular, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And he's like, there's no way that, and like, this is, the veil has been lifted from his eyes, and nothing can convince him. And while his friend was reminiscing and doing his thing, like the good paid friend that he's supposed to be, for a while he was feeling that comfort again, until he kind of brought up like, hey man, like if everybody is lying to you and this whole thing is just for you, he was like,
I'd have to be on it too.
Then I would have to be lying to you. Yeah, you're my best friend, and we grew up in all these things together. Remember when you gave me pneumonia because of the thing, and he's trying to say like, hey man, like if that were the case, then I would be lying to you too, and that's not me. And then that's when he was
that whole monologue happens, and we realize that it's all bullshit. The director's been feeding him every single word through an earpiece.
It's bullshit. I did not do it.
He did not. Did not hit her.
He didn't. He did grab her aggressively, which was pretty scary for her.
And then Marlon goes, Truman, the real reason I brought you out tonight is because I have a surprise for you.
Oh, yeah.
And his dad walks up from the ocean. In the most trash TV way possible.
Yeah.
And Truman's like,
Dad?
It kind of falls for it a little bit. But I mean, let's be real, it kind of makes sense. Like, even if things are being weird, that was his dad to him.
Yeah, we get a lot of scenes from behind the scenes with Mr. Little G God.
Yeah, Little G God.
Where he's doing an interview and he's explaining
on True Talk.
Or we're showing he's showing how they're gonna fix the issue, and it's like, oh, we're gonna introduce Dad again.
Yeah,
trying to get on. Yeah,
he explains a lot of the reasonings behind things and like why certain things are
how would you
happening
bring him
in certain
back?
ways.
And how is he gonna for all those years? And they're like, oh, amnesia. And he's like, oh, the interview guy's like, smart, genius.
Yeah,
wow, Mr.
So they're bringing him back in because he needs a father figure.
But I think this is also a part in the movie where I personally was like, man, this is so messed up. Like,
yeah, and in perfect timing, Sylvia agrees, so she calls into the show.
Yeah, she does, because
it says that everything they're doing is stupid and like messed up, and that Truman's not getting an actual life. And Christoph basically counters her argument and says that what he's doing is giving Truman the opportunity to lead a normal life free of violence or pain, and says that should Truman discover the truth, he could leave on his own if he wanted to.
Yeah. He said, I think one of the things he said was that if Truman really wanted to leave and he tried hard enough, he could.
He would do it. Yeah.
He would do it. Yeah, he would do it. And he doesn't because he says
he actually likes his life. Yeah.
And which is, we all know is BS. But you know what I think, like a lot of times in movies, I'm big on communication, right? I'm big on using your words. And like in that argument, if I were her talking to him, I would say, are you telling me that if you were in Truman's spot, you would feel okay about that?
Yeah.
Knowing everything that you are doing to this man, you would trade places with him? I don't think he would have said yes. I think that really would have caught him off guard, because when you have to logically think about, okay, if you are okay with that, would you walk in his shoes? Would you want somebody dictating your life the way that you're dictating his? Can you really sit here on live TV and tell everybody in the world, the billions of people that are watching, and say, hey, you would give up your autonomy to have someone dictate your life for you? I don't think he would have. I think that would have been because that's what I thought. Yeah. If I were her, I would have said, hey, then you would be okay with living his life then? I don't think he would have said yes.
And in the talk no jutsu way out of this movie, I think that his response probably would have been, I'm giving him the life I wish I could have. And then the story would continue on the way it's going.
Maybe.
So the next day happens, and Truman starts his day as normal. Everything seems to be fine. Bringing his dad back, fixed all the problems.
Well, he starts the day by drawing a little alien around his in the morning.
Just being Truman.
Yeah. Classic Truman.
And then at some point he disappears.
Which is I even think maybe there's some symbolism in the alien. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he knows that
he doesn't.
This isn't real.
Yeah, he doesn't fit in. This is not
his place,
his world. You know what I mean?
And so,
yeah,
Truman hides.
He has a grand. He's been scheming.
Yeah, he has been.
Yeah,
he sets a couple of little decoys and hides in the basement, basically. And then
we hit the great escape portion of
and as soon as they get to a point where they don't think that they can find Truman, or like he's not going to come out on his own, they cut the transmission for the first time.
Yeah, because he makes it look like he's just fell asleep in the basement.
Yeah,
he tunneled his way out, and so nothing suspicious until what's his name?
Marlon?
Fake God.
Oh, Christoph.
Yeah, Christoph. He's like, wait a minute, let's check all these things. Let's be double because something's not right. And then of course they call best friendo with the
and they goes in and like pulls the blanket over and he's not there, and they cut the transmission pretty much immediately.
Yeah,
and it's to go have a massive search party for Truman, basically. Like the entire cast and crew is just like walking the streets, sweeping them, trying to find him.
I mean, what would have been the situation had they found him? They got the whole town out looking for him. Like, what's? I'm kind of curious as to see how they would have reasoned that. You know what I mean?
And then comes what?
Because now they're getting desperate.
Yeah,
they cut the transmission for the first time ever since he was born, I guess.
Yeah.
And the illusion is off because even Homie crawls out from under the ground and looks straight at camera.
Yeah.
And everybody hated that. It was the talk of the town.
It was.
After they cut the transmission. And they're getting desperate. Everybody's panicking. So much so that they turned the sun on in the middle of the night.
Yep. Which again just verifies to Truman that this is all fake. But then they find him, and
in the place they least expected him.
Yeah, and it is probably, and I'm not joking or over dramatizing this when I say this. It is probably one of the best sequences in movie history.
Yeah,
because they find Truman on a little boat.
Yeah.
In the middle of the water. And they start the transmission back up because Christoph is going to do what he does best and try to play God out of this situation.
Well, and this is where we really see the depths of Christoph's
we see the truth. We see the truth. It's not about it's not about what's Truman, best for Truman at all.
No, not even a little bit. And it's so much so that
it's about being right to him.
For him, it's just about having what he wants.
Yeah.
It's about his power. It's about his vision.
He wants to in the most parental way possible force Truman into what he believes is best for him.
Yeah, which is pretty messed up. I mean, those things never work out, by the way.
It is so good and is dripping with metaphor.
Yeah, and you really feel the desperation, and you really feel the, man, I don't even know what to call it, but it's just like, I mean, for me, I would say it was like disgust for him, because he looks at Paul Giamatti's character, and of course, Paul Giamatti's character knows what he's thinking, and he's like, okay, because it comes down to this. I would rather kill Truman than him live a life without me profiting from his life. Like this thing that I built, his baby is the show, not Truman. And he would rather kill Truman than see him live a life that is his own, that he has no control over.
I don't know if I agree that it's entirely for profit. I think that, and he mentions it a few times anytime that they cut to production for like interviews or whatever, that he sees Truman as his son and that he is his father trying to curate the best life for him possible.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe, but I'm not sure
and
that
I think he's genuine about it.
I don't. There's a part of me that doesn't buy that. Like I said, I think the show and the control and the production is his baby, not.
Oh
Truman.
Yeah,
and that's
because he's created this whole world.
That's what he's trying to protect, not Truman. It's not that he wants to give Truman a good, in my opinion.
Well, obviously he's not protecting Truman.
Yeah, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to give him a good life. He doesn't.
He's protecting his experiment.
And that argument that you said that he would say, I'm trying to give him the life that I would want. That's what do you call that? That's him trying to convince himself. That's not a truth. That's him.
Well, where's he getting the model for Truman's life? Where else would he get it from except from where he would believe to be the best life possible?
I mean, lots of people have ideas of what they think a good life would be, but I think a lot of times we can look at close friends and family and think, hey, this would be the best decision for you. Mm-hmm. This would be a good life for you if you walk down this path.
Yeah.
So it's real easy to make decisions for somebody else, not necessarily because that's the decision you would make or the decision or the path that you would take for yourself. Like, just because you promote something for somebody doesn't mean that you would make that same decision. Were you necessarily in their shoes? You might think that, you might believe that, but I think that sometimes, like I said, it's just real easier. Like, with what I do with insurance, I deal with a lot of people where I have to kind of push back on other people because they're trying to spend the company's money. It's real easy to spend somebody else's money. When it's your money, like when it's somebody else's, if someone gets into a car wreck and it's their money, well, what can we do to make it more affordable? Especially when you're looking at like $10,000+ of damage. You're paying that out of pocket. You're like, hey, maybe we could find some used parts or some parts that are cheaper. But when it's somebody else's money, well, only the best will work for me. It must come brand new from the dealership. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's what I feel about this for him is it's real easy to make decisions for someone else when there's no downside for you. And like I said, I truly felt like in that moment where he was sending the storms to like literally kill Truman. That's what I think, that he was going to kill him.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
And he wanted that. And I mean, like, that's what I'm saying is he was
I completely agree.
So tightly onto, like I said, his baby, this production, this show. I mean, say what you want. I believe that money is a huge motivator, prestige, people calling him a genius. I think he just eats that up because he's a human being. He's a man in power. What man in power doesn't want people to praise him and call him a genius and say that he's revolutionary and stuff like that? And that's what I'm saying is whether he sees Truman as his son or not, I truly feel like, and that's where I said disgust comes from, is because his desire to hold on to the power that he has over Truman is more important than Truman, and that's why that's my take.
I'm getting us back to this because we've gotten into an argument over a hypothetical. I'm arguing, and that's what makes it an argument. But we got to finish the story, and the only thing I'm going to say back at you for this, and I'm cutting it off, and that's my authority over this. That's my taking control over it. This is my storm over your boat, Truman. I personally believe that diluting the moral of the story and the theme of the movie to money and power lessens the theme and the ending of it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that some more.
So now, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I'm going to say.
Let's talk about that some more because I want to hear more about.
I agree. So, which I'm not saying you're wrong. All I'm saying is that if I look it up later and I find out that's right, I'll be very disappointed. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, Jarvis spoiled it. Truman goes out into the water. They find him. They bring the broadcast back, and Christoph starts like actual storms to try to tip Truman's boat over, try to get him to turn around, try to get him to stop. He just doesn't.
He felt like, you know what he felt like? He felt like Kylo in The Last Jedi where he tears all the guns to fire. He's like,
I want that ship out of the sky.
All the guns keep shooting on him. That's where he's like,
this is kind of a lot.
More waves.
Yeah, he really was.
That's the vibes I get from him in that
was,
moment. Is that a good illustration?
Yeah.
Or like, was it?
What a good callback.
All red-faced and shaking.
And it gets to the point where, like, the rest of the crew thinks Truman is actively drowning. Like, they're watching somebody die.
They're worried, yeah.
And so they convince Christoph to stop. The storm completely subsides, and Truman ends up getting back on the boat. And, like, he ends up getting back on the boat and just kind of, like, drifts off until the boat hits something, which is the edge of the sky.
Yeah.
And it rips a hole in it. And we get the beautiful, beautiful him walking up the stairs and opening the door. And then Christoph speaks to him out of the sky. And it's like his last plea. It's like, hey, you can turn around. We'll work with you on what you want with your life. And we'll do whatever you want as long as you don't walk out the door.
Yeah, he tries to convince him that the life outside is worse. And it's the same lies, but...
Yeah, but there's no control, and no one's looking out for him.
Yeah.
And it's not at all what he thinks it's going to be. And Truman looks at the camera, looks at the sky. There's cameras everywhere, and does his standard, if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and walks out, and that's the end. That's the whole movie. Perfect ending.
Perfect.
Actually, perfect ending. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think it gets much better than that.
On that, we agree.
Perfect ending.
Yeah.
We get the whole, like, and I know that there's, I'm going to call them normies, non-full-time movie fans out there that I've heard complain that they don't get to know what happens to Truman afterwards. And I just, like, have to keep myself from shouting at them. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, life is supposed to be, you can't plan for it. It's, you don't know what's going to happen next.
You don't get to know.
But what we do know is that now he gets to make his decisions and know that they're his.
Yeah. What you know is that was the best ending.
Yep.
Regardless of if he walked out the door and got shot.
In agreement.
You know?
Agreement.
Hey. You look good over there.
Look real good.
Have you thought about sharing your kindness with others?
Share the love.
Maybe like the video. Click on that subscribe button. And show your friends.
Yeah, just touch it ever so lightly, that like button. Move over to the subscribe button. Maybe tap your keyboard just a little bit. Leave a comment. Bye.
That's it.